Welcome to this week's edition of Cohasset Comment. I'm your host, Town Manager Chris Sr. On this week's edition, we'll talk with Joy Schiffmann, the chair of the Cohasset 250th Committee, about the plans that were unfortunately postponed and their ideas for future events, including this fall. We'll talk with Steve Wenner, who's been championing an electrical aggregation article that town meeting approved last year and is ready for the voters again at this town meeting in June. Special correspondent Jack Cunningham with a feature on the class of 2020 and things that are being done to celebrate their year. All this and more on this week's edition of Cohasset Comment. I'm here today with Joy Schiffmann, the chair of the Cohasset 250th Committee. Joy, welcome to Cohasset Comment.
Thanks, Chris. Nice to be here.
Now, I know that one of the tough aspects of this whole COVID-19 crisis has been the damper it's put on 250th events. I know we had a great event back in January, which was so well attended and so much excitement building and the pop-up shops. And so what are the plans going forward?
So, well, yeah, it is, of course, discouraging for all the people that have put in so much work. But, as you say, we had a great kickoff event in January. A lot of young families attended. It was really nice, high energy. A couple of things. We figure Cohasset 250 was always about building community. And we feel like during this whole COVID-19 crisis that, community is really pulled together and really showed itself. And we feel that, that's sort of part of what we're doing. If you watch our Instagram feed, you can see how the town is pulled together during this crisis. And I think it's been really impressive. So yeah, if anybody is not watching the Cohasset 250 Instagram feed, you should. It's great. There's a lot of really pretty pictures and pictures of things that are still going on in town. We have a hashtag that we call Cohassetisms that highlight some of the things that are very unique to town. So it's fun.
So again, one of the things you mentioned is the great community spirit. And I think that's something that really showed through because this didn't just happen a few months ago. You've been working on this for 3 years.
Yes, there's been a lot of people working on it for several years. We figure at last count, we had about 40 subcommittees, 40 different activities and things that different people were managing throughout town. So, Cohasset came together, which was nice, and we're not going away, actually.
No, well, I mean, obviously, that's when we talked about this, when this all kicked off, and one of the greatest parts about this whole effort was not merely engaging people in history, but bringing people who are comparatively new to the community. Now, your family goes back a long way, and I think you have to have multiple generations to be official Cohasset resident. There's a lot of folks who are fairly new, and I don't mean just, like I, who are less than 7 years here, but people who are, a couple of years in, and even some who've been here even far longer than I. And one of the greatest things about this whole process has been teaching, getting people to learn about the community and really engage in ways they hadn't.
Yeah, and it's been great to see different people working together too. People that normally might not have even met each other or come in contact. Young people with young kids in the school system, older people that have lived here for a long time. People new to town. It's been a great collaboration of a lot of people, and we are. Trying to pull something together for the fall. We sort of have we call them the all-stars of the volunteers, people that were heading up some of our bigger events. We're going to all come together probably around Thanksgiving weekend, which is kind of a fun time because if you talk about Cohassetisms, there's a couple of them that happen over that weekend. There's the football game, which is home this year. There's, Santa Claus comes to town on a boat. Where else does that happen? There's the road race, and of course, families coming together. So, stay tuned for something happening in the fall.
So the one of the challenges, of course, has been all the things that weren't able to happen this year. Lots of great planning has gone into this. That said, there's a lot of things that are still happening. As you pointed out, there's the Instagram page, there's the Facebook page. I understand you can still buy 250th merchandise.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for saying that. That leads me into my second plug here. So yes, at Cohasset250.com, we still have lots of Cohasset 250 gear. We have a couple of things. We have things for cold drinks at the beach. We have coffee mugs with, these have actually a bunch of sites and things all over town. They're really fun to read, different neighborhoods and stuff. But we have lots of things, shirts, hats, housewares. You can buy them on our website, and there's going to be a local pickup location at Darylyn's in the village and maybe some other places. And when it's safe and we can figure out the right way to do it, we'll continue to pop up in some different places.
That sounds great. So there's plenty of opportunity still to pick up a few Cohasset 250th items, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
For the beach, for the home, for just hanging out on the deck and enjoying this.
Good commemorative items. So like you were saying, there are a couple of other things that are happening. You know, obviously there's our social media. There are 2 publications that are still being worked on. One is a commemorative brochure, a commemorative magazine that's sort of all about life in Cohasset. It has a great history piece, very contemporary take on history, sort of, you know, these are all the places that you love to enjoy, but do you really know the history of the harbor and Sandy Beach and the Gulf and the village? So that's being worked on. There's a lot of neat pieces in that too. There's a section called the life of a day in the life of a 5th grader in Cohasset, and all the kind of neat things you can do when you just jump on your bike. And so it's really fun. And then the other thing that is still happening is we are working with the Historical Society on a book about the Cohasset's oldest 250 homes. It's been an amazing research project. A lot of hours have gone into it. So it's going to be this beautiful coffee table book with vintage pictures and new pictures. And there's also, going along with that, is a plaquing program. I don't know, if you've seen a lot of the antique homes in town have these plaques on them. There's about 90 or so. We're going to increase that to 250 homes. And it'll be sort of a tour highlighting some of the really neat old architecture and the stories behind who built the houses and who lived there. So that is still ongoing.
So I know we have well over 3,000 properties and homes in town. So I guess when you go back to the oldest 250, you get some pretty old homes.
The oldest home is from 1695, the oldest standing home in Cohasset, which I guess technically was Hingham at the time. But anyway, it's been a big project. It's been a lot of fun. People have learned a lot.
That sounds great. So with, as you highlighted before, there's some work being done, hopefully, to pull something off around Thanksgiving. So we'll see how that comes together.
Yes. Oh, you know, and another thing that's going forward that will be highlighted in November is a time capsule. That we have a big committee working on that, very creative committee. They're working with the schools and some other people to kind of reimagine what a time capsule might look like. And so that'll be fun. That'll be unveiled at our fall events.
Oh, that's great. Are there any old ones that we have to open as part of this ceremony, by the way? Or?
Well, there was one that was literally dug up and opened. It was that's another story. That's a story for another segment.
For another interview. Okay.
But we found it, and stuff didn't fare too well in it. So that's taught us some lessons about preserving things when you put them underground. But
yes, it's important that if you're going to put a time capsule on, it should be pretty watertight and everything else, right? Yeah. So I think one of the things that we also had talked about when this all kicked off was, as critical as this time was in getting people engaged, we hope to keep the spirit going right into the future. And I think this energy that you and all the committee folks have captured is something that we can really channel, hopefully, for years to come.
Absolutely. You know, some neighborhoods came together. You know, there was an event planned for Beechwood that could absolutely go forward, you know, maybe not with the 250 branding, but you know, lots of people came together with some great ideas that absolutely do not have to go away and don't have to be, you know, a 250 event.
I think it's a great idea to continue to you know, have neighborhood or even community-wide events beyond what we've already done. I was looking the other day. I know the other big event that was scheduled for this year, not quite as big as the 250th, right? It was the 400th in Plymouth, right. And they've pushed a lot of events online, as you have. And they're looking at scheduling some stuff for next year. Now I know next year is a long way away, but with their precedent of saying 400 plus one, maybe we'll see how, you know, we get through the summer and the fall and see if anybody's interested in 250 plus one.
Absolutely, we've been watching them closely. We've actually been working with them as well. So, you know, for the last 3 years, we've sat down with them just to, you know, to sort of see if there are any synergies with what they're doing. And Cohasset is at the very northern edge of the the colony that they're celebrating. So we're sort of included in that.
Well, that's great. So any final words for us about 250 or 250 plus?
Just that we haven't gone away. Our banners are still up and our social media is going strong. Stay tuned for something happening in the fall. And we really appreciate all the help and volunteers that we've had so far. And feel free to contact us and join us at Cohasset250.com. There's always work.
Exactly. So Cohasset250.com. You have a Facebook page. You have an Instagram page. Please visit, sign up, link to them. And again, if you're interested in engaging or volunteering or even helping with some of the pop-up shops, I know that Joy and the folks on the committee would be happy to have your support.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Joy. And thank you to everybody who did so much to pull this together, and all the exciting events that have taken place and things we hope will take place in the future. Thanks, Joy. This week's look at a Cohasset business features Balance Studio.
So we've been really, really busy since we closed down on March 13th, trying to get the majority of our classes online for our students. And we're also creating a huge on-demand library of our classes that are now found on our website. So if you go to balancestudiocohasset.com, there's an on-demand tab and you can access the classes. They're $8 a piece, which is significantly lower than when we were open. But it gives you a great assortment of vinyasa classes, power yoga, movement classes, meditation, yin, hatha, bar classes, and Pilates classes. So it's very comprehensive, and we're really proud of our teachers for stepping up and doing an amazing job filming from their home. Additionally, we've taken our boutique, which has been a big part of our business, and put it all online through a site called Shopify. So everything is on there. It's you go to balancestudio.myshopify.com. Excuse me, my mask is slipping a little bit today. And you can shop for Mother's Day or for spring or just to while away the time while you're at home. So we are praying to be able to open soon and get our students and get our community back in here. But for the time being, we're doing what we can to keep the business alive and to keep our community bonded together, in addition to reaching out to a lot of students that used to come to Balance but have since moved away, and now they're finding that they can access us online, and they are thrilled. So we've gotten a lot of really good positive feedback. So if you want to help us out, shop our Shopify, check out our on-demand classes. We're offering gift certificates for Mother's Day and for people to use for when we reopen, God willing, in the very near future. So thank you and stay safe.
Cohasset Town Meeting is right around the corner, and among the really important articles scheduled for the warrant is one on electrical aggregation. Town Meeting approved the first stages of an electrical aggregation plan last year, and this article will take us to the next step. To discuss it is with us today is Steve Wenner from the Alternative Energy Committee. Welcome, Steve.
Hello, glad to be here.
What can you tell us a little bit? Let's start from the beginning and explain a little bit about what electrical aggregation is all
about. Okay, electrical aggregation is a program that was started in 1997 through the Massachusetts Utility Restructuring Act. And what that allowed the state to do was to, first of all, it broke up the utilities into the distribution companies. Like in our town, it's National Grid that maintains the distribution lines and sends us our bills, and the power generators. So the idea was to provide a mechanism to promote more competition and get better consumers. They also came up with a mechanism to allow towns like Cohasset to join together to form a bulk buying pool to offer suppliers of electricity lower rates as a consequence. It's been very successful in Massachusetts. As of last night, when I checked, there were 163 towns in Massachusetts that have approved electricity irrigation plans. So in recent years, the orientation of the plans and also branched out to offering residents choices for green energy, for renewable energy. The idea being to help nudge our communities away from the consumption of fossil fuels to decrease our carbon footprints. So it's a really good program for several reasons. It provides lower rates on electricity and also gives consumers options for green power.
Basically, it sounds like, Steve, that what electrical aggregation does is it allows consumers to band together in towns, and towns then to band together with each other to get better rates, and at the same time to enhance the green energy component of what we're buying.
Exactly. That's exactly it. In fact, our aggregation program is joining with Situate and Marshfield's programs, and we all have the same energy broker, and he will be going out, this company, Good Energy, will be going out and soliciting bids at the same time to energy suppliers. And so we should get attractive rates because we're offering the suppliers of energy a large pool of customers.
So as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, so last year what town meeting authorized was to create a plan, and that's to have the selectmen go off and work with the alternate manager committee and staff to come up with an aggregation plan. That plan has now been created, correct?
Yes, that's right. Cohasset is kind of unique among all the other towns in Massachusetts in that we have required an extra step on second town meeting approval to proceed with implementing the plan. We've done this because we wanted to be very sure that that the residents and businesses, the voters in Cohasset, had the opportunity to learn about the plan and to offer their voice as to whether they thought it was good to proceed with it. So that's what the article before town meeting is about. Go ahead.
And if I recall, so the plan itself, I believe, has without going into a tremendous depth here, it allows, I think, 3 different. Basically, what aggregation will mean is that the town's energy needs, the electrical energy needs, will be bid out as a block, right? And then they'll be it will be bid out with 3 separate options, correct?
You'll see that this kind of breaks down the process graphically. On the upper left, we have the supply of electricity. Those are the energy providers that will be negotiating with for a contract, and they pump their electricity into the distribution lines that are managed by National Grid, which bring the power to the customer on the right-hand side, and also handle all the billing issues. So in the bottom left, you'll see a little graphic displaying renewable energy with wind and solar there. So Good Energy will also negotiate options for green energy, which will also flow into National Grid's power lines and be distributed to the businesses and residents of Cohasset. Now, at the bottom right are the 3 options that people will have if they wish to participate in the plan. The basic plan will be 26% clean energy. The exact percentage will depend upon what the market is like at the time that Good Energy goes out to solicit bids, but we're anticipating that it'll be something around 26% clean energy. The idea is to get as much green energy into the mix as possible, and yet still keep the rates below what the basic National Grid rate is at the moment. Now, if people are, that would be the plan that people would be automatically enrolled in. If a consumer wishes to simply minimize their cost and didn't care about the green energy, they could opt with the low cost plan, which will be which we would anticipate will be slightly less expensive and contain the minimum amount of green energy required by state law, which at the moment is 16%, and it's going up at 2% a year. We also will be offering a premium plan for people who want to fully use nothing but class 1 renewable energy that's wind and solar generated in Massachusetts. That will be the 100% renewable premium option, and that will be a little bit more expensive. We anticipate that the basic plan and the 26% clean energy plan will be almost the same cost, maybe a couple of tenths of a cent difference between them. But the 100% renewable plan might be a couple pennies more. In any event, those are going to be the 3 options that we're going to shoot for. Now, also, consumers have a choice. They don't have to participate at all if they don't want to. If they prefer not to participate and stick with whatever plan they have now with the utilities, they can opt out. So after the bids have gone out and the replies have been received, and the Board of Selectmen will review all the plans and choose the best one. And if there is an acceptable plan that the Board of Selectmen feel is in the best interest of the residents and businesses in Cohasset, then a letter will go out to every resident and every business explaining the plan, explaining the 3 options, and also including an opt-out card. So if they don't wish to participate, people can return the opt-out card. I should mention, it's very important to understand that there's absolutely no risk to anyone here. If someone gets entered into the plan and then later decides that they prefer not to be in the plan, they can cancel at any time with no penalty. So there's absolutely no risk to anyone. So basically, that's how it works. At the stage we're at now, our plan has been submitted to the Department of the DPU, Department of Public Utilities, for their review and approval.
I think it's a great explanation, Steve. I think the most important things for people to understand is that that what town meeting is being asked to do is to approve the plan, which has the 3 options you've laid out: the lowest cost, the 26% green energy, which is an upscale green energy plan, and then a fully 100%, as you said, class 1 renewable energy, wind and solar in Massachusetts. Then this plan would be bid out in conjunction with our neighbors, as you said, Situate and Marshfield. We'd see what the prices come back at. The selectmen will look at it, and then give it a green light if it's good, and if it's not, maybe go back out and try again. So and again, as you said, if things are good and if things look good, then what will happen is that everyone will be notified. Correct? Is that how it works?
Yes. If the Board of Selectmen decide that we have received a good bid, then that bid, that plan will be sent out. A letter will be sent out to all the residents so they can learn about it and decide which option they want to participate in. If they want to participate at all, or if they decide that they do not want to participate, they'll return the opt-out card.
As I understand it, everyone has endorsed this unanimously, the advisory committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the Alternative Energy Committee. So it sounds like everyone has gotten very much behind this process.
Yes, and at last year's annual town meeting, the article to authorize the Board of Selectmen to proceed with developing a plan, that article passed also unanimously. So we haven't heard any real opposition to the plan. It seems to have pretty broad support.
Okay, that's great. So thank you very much, Steve. For more information on electrical aggregation, you can go to the Town of Cohasset's website. You can find it both on the town meeting, the annual town meeting page, which will have links to the FAQs that Steve mentioned and other aspects of the plan. And there's a more in-depth section on the town manager's on the town manager's page as well with more information on aggregation. Again, lots of great work. Thank you, Steve, and thank you to all the folks on Alternative Energy who have made such great strides on this. Thank you again, Steve. Good to see you.
Thank you, Chris.
And we'll see everyone at town meeting. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of Cohasset Common, and thanks to everyone who participated in making this week's episode a success. As we close, let's take a look at some more scenes from the Cohasset Memorial Day celebrations.
It is my privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Richard Churchill, Cohasset resident, United States Army, United States Marine Corps, 2 tours in Vietnam, retired police officer, City of Quincy, Massachusetts. Richard.
As you can see, this deep appreciation of our servicemen and women spans generations of this town's history. I grew up in this environment. I believe it to be kind of unique. The Veterans Project, a location that allowed returning veterans to purchase home sites for a very reasonable price, start their lives all over again. All the kids had friends their own age. There were the Flints and the Selfs and the Stantons and the Calderwoods and the Aherns, the McCarthys, O'Briens, and so many more. We all knew our dads had participated in the war, but knew little of their involvement. It wasn't till after my dad's passing in 1987 that I found out some of his World War II experiences. He was a member of the 8th Tank Battalion of the 4th Armored Division. Dad was in the lead as Patton marched towards Paris. On a visit to see my mom in the summer after Dad had died, I saw a crate with a marble headstone in it with an inscription in French. So I asked my mom, I said, "What's the story? What's in the crate?" "Oh," she said, "your father was in a unit that saved a village in France called Sub-sur-Long. I have a letter here that Dad had sent home from Charlie Stegmeyer detailing the fight, and it's only the way my father would say something like this." He said, just a small excerpt from the letter. "In a town about the size of Cohasset," he said, "the raving Hun had blown up a building, a local cafe, in retaliation of activities for the underground. The next day, Germans promised to return, kill the mayor and plus 40 other individuals. Fortunately, our outfit arrived in the worried village about the time the Germans had hit the other side of the same place. In the ensuing fracas, the usual armor punishment was dealt the enemy, but unfortunately 2 of our infantrymen were fatally wounded. Their khaki bodies were brought into a local courtyard waiting for evacuation. But apparently that didn't happen, so they were temporarily buried in the local cemetery, along with 8 Air Force members of the Army Air Force who had the French had taken and placed in their own local cemetery, putting flowers there every day."